I will call this meeting into order at 3 p.m. Commissioners, good to see y'all. Everyone have a good weekend. Mr. County Administrator, Madam Attorney. I will lead the meeting by calling my good friend, Dr. Judy Mandrell, to do the invocation. She is the pastor of Life Changers Church. Dr. Mandrell, it's great to see you.
Great to see you too, sir. Thank you. May we all stand and bow our head, please. Heavenly Father, Almighty God and Creator and God of all nations, we come before you today with grateful hearts as we gather for this monthly meeting of the County Commission. We thank you for the privilege of leadership, for the beauty of our county, for the diverse and resilient people who call this community home. We ask for your divine wisdom to rest upon this commission today. Grant these commissioners leadership, Chairman Christian Camban and Vice Chairman David O'Keefe, the district representatives, the at-large representative. Lord, our leaders and public servants, give them clarity of mind, soundness of judgment, and a spirit of cooperation. As they deliberate on policies and budget and future plans, remove any spirit of division and replace it with a shared vision for the common good. Give them the courage to make decisions that are fair, equitable, and just. May their choices reflect a deep commitment to the elevation and well-being of every citizen, from our youth to our elders, and from our local business owner to our most valuable neighbors. Help them to lead with integrity, always remembering that true leadership is defined by service to others. We pray our community today. We pray for our community today. Bless our families, protect our first responder, and prosper the work of our hands. May the discussion held in this chamber today ignite hope and give a stronger, more united county for generations to come. And God, we just thank you for your healing and your peace in this city. We pray for further covering by you. And we ask this and that we place this meeting in your hand. In your son, Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We're going to start with Commissioner Maddox's proclamation recognizing the upcoming retirement of Mr. Doug Cook, principal of Rickards High School.
All right. If I could have School Board Member Jones come up. Mr. Cook. Hey, how you doing? Come up with you. Come on up. All right. Mr. Chair, the proclamation reads, whereas Principal Cook has devoted more than 3 decades of exemplary service to public education. His unwavering commitment to student success and school improvement established him as a respected and influential leader whose contributions helped strengthen the education foundation of generations of students. And whereas Principal Cook began his distinguished career in education in 1991 at Cobb Middle School, where he faithfully served in numerous capacities, including teacher of industrial education, specializing in graphics, drafting, and photography, 6th grade team leader, dean of students, assistant principal for discipline, and assistant principal for curriculum, demonstrating exceptional versatility, dedication, and leadership throughout his tenure. And whereas in 2009, Principal Cook was appointed principal of Montford Middle School, where his visionary leadership and focus on academic achievement guided the school to recognition as one of the top 50 middle schools in the state of Florida based on student testing performance. And whereas in 2012, Principal Cook accepted the position of principal of James S. Rickards High School, embarking upon a tenure characterized by excellence, innovation, and remarkable accomplishment that elevated the school's reputation and fostered a culture of achievement. And whereas under his outstanding leadership, James S. Rickards High School achieved historic milestones, including becoming the first Title I school in Florida to win a state championship in Science Olympiad, while also earning national championships in 2 categories, demonstrating that academic excellence knows no boundary. And whereas during his tenure, Rickards High School celebrated numerous athletic achievements, including the 2019 and 2020 Boys State Championship, the 2020 Football State Runner-Up title, and 2 girls basketball state Final Four appearances, reflecting a commitment to excellence in both academic and extracurricular activities. And whereas Principal Cook championed academic achievement and student success, resulting in 14 consecutive years with an average graduation rate of 90% or higher, a B school rating in 2019, and the school's largest graduating class of the millennium with 380 graduates. And whereas Principal Cook's core leadership platform has always centered on communication, safety and security, and graduation, three pillars he consistently upheld throughout his 14 years as a high school principal and 35 years as an educator. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners, Leon County, Florida, that we do hereby honor Principal Doug Cook for his unwavering service to education and extend our deepest gratitude and appreciation for his many years of commitment to the students and the families of our community. It's signed by the chair, as well as the county administrator and the rest of the commission. Principal Cook, thank you, sir.
Thank you. You know, first of all, I'd like to thank God foremost, because without God, we can't do anything. And I'd like to thank my wife for putting up with me as a high school principal all those years, traveling with the football team, the science team, the math competition. That is truly amazing, and she's done a wonderful job, and thank you. I want to thank Commissioner Maddox, Commissioner Proctor, Commissioner Cummings, and my school board representative. I have to shake his hand, Mr. Darrell Jones, for their support throughout the years. When I think about my journey in 1991, as I continue to move forward in education, none of these things you think about, nor do you want any type of recognition. You do this because you love what you do, you love your students, you love your community, and you always want to give back. So to be honored today is truly amazing, a great accomplishment, but at the end of the day, I would do it all over again for the students, the parents, and the community, because that is truly what is important. And what you guys do each and every day, thinking about our community, making sure that we do things for our community and for each other, that is what makes Leon County Schools the best place, or Leon County the best place to live and work. So with that being said, thank you to all the educators and everybody that I've had an opportunity to work with throughout my 35-year career. Thank you, and I truly appreciate this, and I will accept this humbly, because this is something that I will cherish always. Thank you.
All right, Commissioners, after this picture, we're going to go back to proper order. We're going to go in proper order now that Commissioner Proctor's here. Mr. Vice Chair. Mr. County Administrator, when they're done, you're good to go ahead and introduce the next proclamation with Commissioner Proctor.
Mr. Chairman, if I might,
Of course.
moment of privilege for Ms. Cook. Ms. Cook had the, prior to his coming to Ricketts, he had a difficult task. He had 3 Proctor children in his school at Montfort when he was principal there. And on behalf of their mother, Ms. Cook, we apologize for all the extra grief. And I know she came up there, you know, with guns blazing, you know. I used to feel so bad for you, because she was very intense. But we thank you for your service to District 1 in ways well beyond the words on that proclamation. And it's just hard, let me see. Yeah, it's gonna be hard to feel your shoes. And yeah, hard to feel. And we're gonna miss you all, but with much love, we honor you because you're bigger than the principal at Ricketts. School Board Member Jones will tell you he's larger than life. He's a father. He's an uncle. He's so much more. And family, Mrs. Cook. So thank you all so very much.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, next up is a proclamation recognizing the 50th year of ministry of the Restoration Church of Christ by Commissioner Proctor.
Commissioners, it's a joy. Thanking Ms. Cook, who's already acknowledged the value of faith in doing one's work, faith in a community rotating its values around, and truly faith, Dr. Mandrell, that carries our families, our lives, our institutions forward. It's an honor to recognize a faith community and institution, and it's an honor to recognize the Restoration Church of Christ, a staunch faith community. And I knew something was happening. Yeah. Rachel, bring me some glasses. Yeah, I got them on the thingy right there by Commissioner Cummings. Excuse me. Thank you. Apologize for not being able to see. All right, proclamation. Whereas the Tallahassee community has been richly blessed by the enduring presence and ministry of Restoration Church of Christ, a beacon of faith, service, and spiritual leadership for over 50 years. And whereas Restoration Church of Christ stands firmly upon the apostolic doctrine first proclaimed on the day of Pentecost, faithfully teaching repentance, baptism in the name of the Lord Jesus Christ, and the infilling of the Holy Ghost. And whereas the church's roots are connected to the Progressive Church of our Lord Jesus Christ, Inc., founded in 1944, through which the apostolic message was introduced and established in Tallahassee. And whereas beginning in the 1960s, devoted believers planted seeds of faith that led to the formal establishment of the church in 1976, marking a significant milestone in the spread of truth in the region. Whereas through humble beginnings, including worship in the Gavin family home, where lives were transformed and more than 50 individuals were baptized, the congregation demonstrated unwavering faith, perseverance, and commitment. And whereas through sacrificial giving and unity, the church secured a permanent place of worship, notably acquiring the East Orange Avenue location and retiring a 30-year mortgage in just 9.5 years. And whereas Restoration Church of Christ has remained steadfast in its mission of prayer, sound doctrine, community outreach, and excellence in ministry, positively impacting countless lives throughout the Tallahassee community. Now therefore be it proclaimed that the Board of County Commissioners of Leon County, Florida, do hereby honor and recognize Restoration Church of Christ on their 50th anniversary
celebrating 5 decades of faithful service, spiritual leadership, and unwavering dedication to God and the community, dated this 9th day of June, 2026, signed by Leon County's 7 commissioners, attested to by Leon County's notable county administrator, Mr. Vincent Long. I'm going to be there at y'all's church, I believe on the 26th, 27th, 28th weekend,
Right.
and I might have something else to say. Y'all better wait on it now, you know. God bless you, Mother.
Thank you, Commissioner Proctor, and I'd like to say praise the Lord, because he's good. He's good to us. On behalf of Restoration Church of Christ, I was asked to come and to accept this proclamation. Our pastor, Elder Gavin, could not be here, and the associate pastor, who is Elder Timothy Beard, he's traveling today, so they asked me to come, and I was so excited to do that. My name is Pamela Cooper again, and I've been a member of the church for 40 years, and I'm blessed, and I'm so happy about the location that we're in on the south side of town. The south side, a lot of happening is on the south side, and we're that little beacon of light to make a difference and touch the lives of people in that area and throughout the city. And we appreciate each and every commissioner here. And Mr. Proctor has been to our service before, and I'm so glad to hear that he's planning on coming back again. But we're trying to do great things there at the Restoration Church of Christ, and we just want to continue to shine and do all we can do, show God presence and show his blessings to the community. And we just thank you, each and every one of you, and like to invite you out to the celebration, the last of this month. We're located on 2619 South Meridian Road. And just come out if you can, and we'll just look forward to seeing you. And again, thank you so much. We appreciate this humbly and graciously. God bless you.
Our next proclamation, Commissioners, recognizes June as Pride Month by Vice Chairman O'Keefe.
Now's not the time to be shy. Come on up, everybody. All right, we got everybody around? It's my honor to present this proclamation, especially this year as any year. The proclamation reads, whereas the month of June marks the anniversary of the Stonewall Uprising of 1969, a turning point in the movement toward LGBTQ+ equality, justice, and visibility in the United States and around the world, led in part by Black and brown LGBTQ+ individuals, including transgender women of color, and whereas Leon County has a strong record of advancing equity, having adopted protections against discrimination based on sexual orientation, gender identity, and gender expression in its Human Rights Ordinance in 2011, and having established a domestic partnership registry in 2013 to promote dignity and equal treatment for all families. And whereas Leon County proudly collaborates with community partners, including Equality Florida, and uplift the voices, experience, and contributions of LGBTQ+ community, and whereas Pride Month is an opportunity to recognize the history, resilience, and many contributions of lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, queer, and other LGBTQ+ individuals, Leon County and beyond. And whereas Leon County is committed to promoting equity, inclusion, and respect for all residents, regardless of sexual orientation, gender identity, or gender expression, and values the diversity that strengthens our community. And whereas the Leon County Board of County Commissioners acknowledges the ongoing challenges faced by the LGBTQ+ community, including discrimination and barriers to opportunity, and reaffirms its commitment to fostering a safe, inclusive, and welcoming environment for all. And whereas celebrating Pride Month, we uplift the voices of LGBTQ+ individuals, honor their experiences, and continue the important work of advocating for equal rights and dignity for all. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Leon County, Florida, that the month of June 2026 be known as LGBTQ+ Pride Month, and encourages all residents, organizations, and institutions to reflect on the importance of equity and inclusion and to stand in solidarity with our LGBTQ+ neighbors, family members, coworkers, and friends. Dated this first day of June 2026, signed by all of the commissioners and the county administrator. Who's getting this? There we go. Congratulations, Lewis.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. It's been a while since I've been up here. A few years back, this room was really packed with people that were asking you to pass a non-discrimination ordinance, if you remember. Some of you were on the commission at that time. I want to say I'm proud as a Leon County citizen to be represented by you all and to be recognized in this proclamation for Pride. It means a lot to our community. It is Pride all over the state right now. Of course, we got to be first, so we do ours in March. So we won't see you for a Pride Festival until the first week of March, first Saturday of March. But we'll be celebrating around the state with our peers. And, I just want to say something real quick also. The policy that we passed here for anti-discrimination became the model policy for the entire state. And you all should be proud of the work that this commission did to kind of lead the way in that area. So thank you very much for this proclamation and for everything you do. Thanks.
Commissioners, I wanted to reiterate Jim's thanks and all of our appreciation for you recognizing June as Pride Month. I'd be remiss if I didn't note that we're also coming up on the 10-year remembrance of the tragedy at Pulse on June 12th, where 49 lives, mostly LGBTQ and Latino Floridians, were taken. But continuing to honor the memory of Pulse and recognize June as Pride Month are such important markers for our community. We really appreciate the demonstration of that consideration and inclusion. Thank you for it.
Commissioners, the final proclamation will be presented by Commissioner Welch as a proclamation recognizing Deer Lake Middle School students for the life-saving efforts that saved a physical education.
All right, Mr. Chairman, am I good? All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners and Mr. Administrator. I have the honor of presenting a proclamation to these two strapping young men right here who really stepped up a few months ago. We're talking about 6 weeks ago, 8 weeks ago, something like that. Maybe not even that long ago. Stepped up to intervene in a situation that was occurring at Deer Lake Middle School and really showed extreme maturity and character in helping one of their coaches, a PE teacher, who was having a medical emergency. And so we want to recognize them today for their courage and character. Whereas Deer Lake Middle School in Tallahassee, Florida is part of the Leon County Schools community and serves students in grades 6 through 8. And whereas during a recent physical education class at Deer Lake Middle School, a teacher and coach experienced a serious medical emergency requiring immediate action. And whereas 8th grade student Parker Rudd responded with exceptional calmness and initiative by promptly calling 911 before a staff member arrived, helping ensure that emergency assistance was requested without delay. And whereas Beckett Rabolzi and Cooper Hogan also stepped forward without hesitation to assist and support those responding to the emergency. And whereas the actions of Parker Rudd, Beckett Rebalzi, and Cooper Hogan demonstrated maturity, courage, compassion, and presence of mind beyond their years, and whereas their response reflects the best of Leon County's young people and serves as a powerful reminder of the importance of emergency preparedness, quick action, and care for others in moments of crisis. And whereas the Board of County Commissioners of Leon County, Florida is honored to recognize students whose conduct promotes the health, safety, and welfare of our community and inspires others to act with courage and responsibility. Now therefore be it proclaimed by the Board of County Commissioners of Leon County, Florida, that the board does hereby recognize and commend Parker Rudd, Beckett Rebalzi, and Cooper Hogan for their calm, courageous, and timely response during a medical emergency at Deer Lake Middle School, and calls upon all citizens to join in honoring these students for their outstanding example of citizenship, compassion, and service to others. Dated this 9th day of June, 2026, signed by myself, the county administrator, all the commissioners. Fellas, take a bow. Thank you so much. Congratulations. Thank you. Take that. All right. Now listen, I've known these guys since they were little kids. They're awesome baseball players. In addition to this, they come from great families. And I know this one right here, Cooper Hogan, he wants to give a speech. You want to give a speech? Come on, Coop. Come on, buddy. I'm just kidding. He doesn't want to give a speech. Parker, you want to give a speech? Okay, all right. They're quiet, but they're calm in moments of crisis. And so you can see that now. So we're going to take a photo. All right, guys?
Careful, Commissioner, they live in your district. Commissioners, your final item on the awards and presentation portion of your agenda is a presentation on the quarterly economic dashboard report.
Mr. Commissioner, who's doing the report?
Hey, listen, these kids didn't just show up on their own, although they probably could have figured it out. Their parents brought them, also great citizens of Northeast Tallahassee. Let's go. There you go. All right.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, by Mr. Keith Bowers,
Awesome, thank you.
our Office of Economic Vitality Director.
Director Bowers, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Administrator. Commissioners, I want to take a few minutes to put our economic picture, our local economic picture into context. Tallahassee Leon recorded real GDP growth of 4.3% in 2024, outpacing Florida at 3.3% and the nation at 2.8%. It's the first time since 2007 that we've led both benchmarks in the same year. Our labor force grew for the third consecutive quarter. Private sector employment grew by 800 jobs year over year. And we should also note that Jumeirah Economics and Analytics ranked us 16th overall nationally as it relates to economic strength and stability, second in the South Atlantic region, fifth among medium-sized metropolitans, 19th overall on the national level for prime workforce. Also in 2025, the Tallahassee-Leon County Metropolitan Statistical Area added 2,100 jobs. That said, I want to be candid. We're not isolated from state, national, and global economic conditions. Some indicators reflect softening. Unemployment claims are up year over year, while spending and travel demand have cooled from their recent peaks, reflecting a broader national trends around inflation, interest rates, and economic uncertainty. These signals we are monitoring closely. Tallahassee-Leon County continues to punch above its weight. Despite the headwinds that I recently mentioned, this community has not been sitting still. Over the past 2 quarters, Tallahassee-Leon County has hosted and landed events that most mid-sized metropolitan areas simply don't see. These events bring visitors, hotel stays, restaurant spending, and critically, national visibility to our community. Our tourism and tax receipts in Q4 2025 were actually 13% above the 5-year Q4 average, which tells you quality events are producing results even as overall passenger traffic softens. in our targeted industries for capital investment and job creation. The county continues to provide funding to direct emergency assistance programs that provide financial assistance such as rent assistance, mortgage assistance, and utility resources and foreclosure and eviction for families facing foreclosure and eviction. The IA initiated and invested in the Air Service Incentive Capacity Program, an essential incentive that was used to attract Breeze Airways, which will begin service out of Tallahassee next month. Bottom line, our local economy is stable and resilient. Long-term trends remain positive, GDP growth outpacing the state and the nation, a growing labor force, historic construction activities, active commercial permitting, and a global reputation that is earning world-class events. Short term, we'll be watching consumer spending, air travel, and industrial vacancies closely. In your packet, attachment 1 contains the full quarterly economic dashboard, which outlines 13 indicators, trend data, and construction expenditure data. We have data available for a deeper dive if the board wishes, or I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
If there's any questions? All right, Mr. Vice Chair, you have a question?
Thank you. Mr. Barris, I just want to say I particularly want to congratulate the team and everyone involved in getting Breeze Airways here. As skeptical as I was this weekend, I went on and looked at the routes and figured out where I could go, and it really makes sense. I actually looked into why the heck is it Tuesday, Sunday, and Thursday,
Right.
and it just makes a lot of sense without going into it. I'm really impressed by it, and I'm looking forward to it starting.
Great.
Awesome. All right, commissioners, we will now, we don't need a motion on this because it's just a presentation by staff. So, Mr. County Administrator, we're on citizens to be heard on consent and non-agenda items.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have consent items pulled number 7, number 8, and number 15, and we have one speaker on non-agenda items.
Go ahead, the speaker.
Sure. The first speaker, only speaker, is Nick Zatelsko, and I'm sorry if I mispronounce your name.
Hi, thank you so much. It's Nick Zateslo, and thank you for commissioners for having me here. I'm a candidate for Congress here in the district, the 2nd district, but I'm not here to campaign. I'm here as a citizen, Tallahassee native who I went to Rickards, and just want to give a shout out to thanks to Principal Cook. The school's looking amazing. We did our 20th anniversary there a few months ago, and it was great to see everybody and how great Rickards is doing. I've spent the last 25 years working professionally at the intersection of technology and politics and policy. And I want to talk about these AI data centers that are coming around and what's going on. I've worked professionally in AI before I became a candidate, and so I'm here to tell you a little bit about what I'm seeing and learning, and love to talk with you more. Hopefully this is the beginning of a conversation and not the end. People assume that data centers are a rural problem, and they're not. Across the country, these facilities are being built into and next to urban neighborhoods. Tallahassee is a perfect spot for a lot of these things to happen because we have land right around Tallahassee, and Leon County is going to be a target. Residents describe a constant low hum from cooling equipment that never stops day or night. They say they can feel it in their bones, in their teeth. It's like sitting next to a diesel truck. Neighborhoods running measurably hotter than the areas around them because of the output and the change in the climate that these things create. And diesel exhaust when those generators run, and we know they're going to run because we have hurricanes here. Large campuses, and by large I mean hundreds and thousands of acres. This is not a normal thing that we're used to thinking about. These generators run by the dozens and sometimes hundreds. Down near Tampa, there's a site that needs 600 hospital diesel generators. I don't know how many TMH has, but probably about 2. You're talking 600 on that one site. And the sales pitch never really matches the reality. The pitch is jobs, and they don't exist. The temporary construction jobs and the permanent operational jobs are much, much different. A few dozen jobs for imported experts managing robots to do the work. The standard ratio across the industry is enormous land, enormous power, enormous water, and a small permanent workforce, most of it specialized and brought in from outside of our area. What I want to do is to make sure that our people, our land, and our economy are protected from what's coming. We need a moratorium, and that stops the clock. But the permanent answer is a land development code change, and I have model packages I've been presenting to counties all around the area. I was just in Jackson County this morning. They actually did their ban and put that in. We have many counties around the area doing that, and I'm trying to go to all of them and give this same information to everybody, not partisan, just trying to help. We need to calculate the water use based on the equipment being installed, not from the developer's own estimates. What they're putting on site is what they're going to use. Don't trust the numbers that they're giving you. The developers need to make sure that they can't dodge the review by calling a project a solar farm or a greenhouse. They switch these out at the last minute. And we need to require that the shell companies they use around this, we know how many layers it goes up, and we know who we're actually working with, and that community meetings are mandatory and mailed notices to everybody that's being involved so that people aren't just finding out on social media, which is what's going on right now. And finally, it requires a decommissioning bond to cover the full cost of restoring the site so that when they leave, which a lot of times the lifespan on these is 2 to 5, 10 years. We're not talking about long-term investment here, but huge practical problems for the cities and the counties that have to clean it up. So Leon County doesn't have a data center ordinance right now, neither does the city of Tallahassee, but the first company that files a permit negotiates that from scratch. And we haven't even touched on the NDAs and other things that are coming in on July 1 with SB 484. So my team will send you guys all the stuff for this project. We have a full package of information on both the moratoriums that I've been researching and on the final development land use codes that need to change to make sure that we don't get swindled and pulled into this mess ourselves. Thank you so much. The question isn't whether this is coming to Leon, the question are whether the rules are going to be ready when it gets here. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. You want to say something? Yeah. Commissioner.
I have no questions. Mr. Chair, I ask that we waive the rules to deal with this issue in the moment, if we can.
This issue?
Yes.
Okay, yeah.
What's crazy about this is that me and my lady friend, my girlfriend, had great conversations about this, and I was actually going to talk about it today. The part that bothers me most about this, about data centers, is their location. They're usually located within low-income areas. And you said it's not if they're coming to Tallahassee. The research has said through our conversations, the conversations I had with her, that we already have 4 of them here. And if you went and looked at the map and the placement, they're placed right in the middle of neighborhoods that look just like me. And so, Mr. Chair, I'll take your lead on this, but this is an issue that we absolutely have to deal with. I'm glad that our speaker brought it up, and I look forward to however you want to handle it, Mr. Chair. But the moratorium might not be a bad idea, but altogether, this education about what this is, who this is, and how it affects our Leon County residents needs to be a public education campaign around that, because it's no small feature, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Maddox. 1 second, please. Commissioners, in your inbox, you actually should have a letter from my office talking about this issue. And at the end of this meeting, I'm going to table this conversation. We're going to proceed with the meeting. At the end of the meeting, I plan on offering a 1-year moratorium on data centers, and I will provide some background and some further dialect when that time comes. However, in your inbox, there should be a letter from my office that should have been sent 5 to 10 minutes ago. But I do want to proceed with the meeting as planned, and then we'll follow up with this. All right? Awesome. Thank you so much. Next order of business, we are on consent. We have 3 items that have been pulled from consent, and I do want to do an agenda modification to move up our legislative update. I believe it's item number 18. I'm going to move that first to general business, so that way we can have a conversation about that.
So moved.
I'll second the motion. The motion on the floor is to move agenda item 18 to the first topic of general business. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Passes unanimously. So we will now take up a motion on consent.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Commissioner Welch, second by Commissioner Maddox for consent minus 7, 8, and 15. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. We are now on item number 7, which has been pulled by who, Mr. County Administrator?
Commissioner Proctor. The item is the September 11th Day of Service and Remembrance for 2026. As the board knows, this is an event that we conduct each year and have done so since September 11th, 2001, and we're happy to answer any questions you may have.
You have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Let's start with a motion.
Move, Mr. Chairman, that we accept this item, this report, and with some suggested modifications, but motion.
So motion moved by Commissioner Proctor for option 1 with some modifications, second by Commissioner Cummings. Commissioner Proctor, can you provide some dialect on the modifications?
Sure. Mr. Chairman, our analysis indicates that in the recognition of 2001 and that conjunction and the 250th anniversary of the United States, the county is going to do a service day at Second Harvest. Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, I'm hopeful that for the 250th anniversary that we're co-joining both those recognitions, that we should expand our scope, and it can be larger than the veterans that we've designated to give 250. And that's not to take anything away. And of course, 250 veterans fed is 250 veterans fed. But for the 250th anniversary of our nation, our county itself is 202 years. We have an electromagnetic lab in our community, 3 universities in our community. There's so much more to sing praises and give recognition for 250 years. And my ask of this commission is maybe for, if we ourselves can't offer the vision of what the celebration and focus recognition of 250 years for America should be, maybe staff can bring an idea a little expanded beyond us going to Second Harvest. And we can do that, but for the 250th anniversary, it won't come again. Can we do more? It's just a question. If we can't do more, we can't fathom additional ideas, then I accept that we're limited. But it's my hope that we can embrace a lot more for 250 years. That's why I pulled this matter.
Commissioner Proctor, you're saying you want to do more for the 250-year anniversary in general, like as a county?
Absolutely. This is just reading this, it popped out that this is all we got for 250. But if that's all we got, that's all we got. I think we should have a lot more to thank, as the speaker said earlier, to thank God for. Our county, North Florida, the gunpowder plant down in Wakulla that has given a lot of munition to a lot of military services from our gunpowder plant. I say our, meaning collegially with Wakulla County. But there's a lot, and I think that if we think about it and give it a little bit more than these few paragraphs, that we might come up with something genuinely exciting and worthy of community's collaboration. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Commissioner Cummings.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. No, I just wanted to inquire if we do have any, and maybe our county administrator can answer that, for July 15th. This is September the 10th, which I don't have a problem, with us enhancing that as well. But if we have something already in the works for July 15th, I'm sorry, July 4th.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. Nothing specifically. I might defer to Matt. Matt may have some additional information other than in addition to this, and perhaps, and I was listening closely to what Commissioner Proctor was saying, perhaps we separate it from this item, which is not about recognition but service in our community. Again, it's been something we've done for a long time, and we do it in various ways each year, as the board knows. Many of you have been out there painting houses and pressure washing and all that sort of thing. But I hear what Commissioner Proctor says about, is there a way that the county can identify opportunities around the 250th? I'll just remind you that we're just coming off 200 events from our 200 bicentennial celebration here. 200 events which we facilitated throughout that. So again, if it's the board's direction to see some recommendations come back around the 250, we'd be happy to do that.
Commissioner Cummings, any follow-up?
Is Commissioner Proctor, that are you pretty much suggesting that something comes back to us more specifically enhancing what's already been presented here in this particular agenda item? I mean, if so, I'll support that as well, because if we're celebrating 250, it doesn't necessarily have to be a one-time thing in July. It can be throughout the process, and what better way than to honor those individuals that have sacrificed their life, their health, their families, in defense of our country. So I think what we've got here is great, but I think it's also even greater if we build upon it as well.
Mr. Chairman, I think all the ideas are helpful as we lay them on the table. Typically, we've deferred the 4th of July celebration. The city has given leadership, in particular with their Tom Brown Park gathering and fireworks. And they've done that annually. We've stood down and remained quiet on July 4th. This year, however, in doing the 911 recognition on the 25th anniversary, staff recognized, also contextualized with the 250th anniversary of our nation. So I didn't put those words there, but having seen them, I thought it was a powerful idea. And hopefully it resonates with our joys of being a nation, quite young as nations go, but in our exuberance as a youthful nation still, that there is something that our county government, typically we don't step into the fanfare. I get that. But if we're going to go there, let's not tiptoe. Let's walk and walk heavily. That's all I was saying.
Thank you, Commissioner Proctor. Commissioners, I think it's a great idea, right? 250-year anniversary of our country. If we want to expand on that and direct staff to kind of do a big county event sometime this summer or sometime later this year, I think it's a great idea. But Commissioner Proctor, you got the motion on the floor, so I'll follow your lead.
I think Commissioner Cummings really said it better than me.
Bring an agenda item back to enhance.
Yeah, that part.
You want to amend your motion for
Yeah,
that?
so that motion is accepted, the friendly amendment by Commissioner Cummings, that staff would give us an array of smorgasbord look at what our community might embrace for a celebration of 250th anniversary of the United States of America.
Commissioner Cummings, I'm assuming you maintain. Okay, great. Commissioners, any conversation around that? Commissioner Minor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just so we're clear, so the motion approves the agenda item presented to us with the additional request for possible events that will come to us at a later date. Is that correct? Okay.
Or one large event, essentially.
Yep. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Everyone understand the motion? Awesome. All those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Don't see any opposed. Passes unanimously. Next item pulled is number 8. Mr. County Administrator.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item number 8 is a local agency program supplemental agreement with the Department of Transportation for the construction, engineering, and inspection services of the old St. Augustine Road Sidewalk Project. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Mr. Chairman, I spoke with the county administrator. He's distinguished for me as we're looking at Old St. Augustine Road. My mind drifted into Commissioner O'Keefe's district, and somehow my interest in us closing down Magnolia Drive sidewalk was prevalent. And I didn't want to go to another project and not understand how we're going to conclude it. The county administrator allowed me to know we're talking about two different agencies, entities for St. Augustine, and so it's not us opening up a new project. It's state handling St. Augustine, and Blueprint is still handling Magnolia. So I appreciate that clarification, but I got caught up in the weeds in reading this and misreading it.
So is your motion to approve staff recommendation?
Approve staff's recommendation.
Okay, great. Motion moved by Commissioner Proctor, second by the Vice Chairman. You want to comment on it?
Yep, real quick.
Good.
It's not too far from your district, Commissioner Proctor. We're connecting the dots. I'm excited to see this. It's much needed, and there's actually, this will cover area near Cross Creek where the new Children's or Family Resource Drop-In Center is, right there near the old Social Security office, and there'll be a crosswalk, which is helping a lot of families that are going there where the CSC's office is. So looking forward to it.
Awesome. Mr. Vice Chair, great work. I know this is in your district. I know it's a priority of yours to increase pedestrian safety. Great job. Also want to give a shout out to staff on this. Shout out to Florida Department of Transportation. FDOT's been great as far as, helping push some of these projects and the funding behind it. Nothing but good things to say about their efforts. So, all right, commissioners, any other conversation? Anybody in the queue? No?
Mr. Chairman, I just say that I think that Commissioner Minor is bringing home millions of dollars for Monroe, and like Commissioner O'Keefe is getting all this money for sidewalks. I'm feeling some kind of way. I'm just saying, those two down there, they're really cleaning up.
They're doing a good job. All right, commissioners, let's vote on the item. All those in favor of the motion on the floor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
No, any opposed? Seeing none, passes unanimously. Next item on consent, pulled from consent.
Commissioners, the next item pulled is item number 15. This was a status report requested by the board on recent inmate deaths at the Leon County Detention Facility and related investigative reporting and review processes. The board asked us to specifically to evaluate the time period of 2025, which we've done here. And again, we are happy to answer any questions you might have on this item.
Mr. Proctor, you pulled this, right?
Mr. Chairman, I pulled this because you and I, we're better men and women than to have pulled several deaths to occur on our stewardship as government for detainees under the sheriff's care and on the dollars with which we supply as a county government to the sheriff.
You gotta have a motion, Commissioner Proctor.
And I move the acceptance of this report with more to say.
You moved to accept, you can finish what you were saying, I just wanted to be proper form. You moved to accept the report?
Sure.
Okay, and a second by Commissioner Maddox, any other ballot?
Sure. Commissioners, we had 4 people die, and they deserve more than the silence of a quiet item placed on some consent. I'd like to hear the report. Can we get a tally? This is not a bugle request or taps, but certainly they died on our watch. And we need to know, just for decency's sake, what happened. Is there any reason we should be alarmed? There's an article that probably will be in tomorrow's papers online today, and the sensitivity of what the Tallahassee Democrat is reporting about dying in people who are in custody. I am as sensitive about this. And I have a son who's in the county jail, so hell yeah, I'm well concerned about what happens there. And there are many other sons who are detained. And as that kind of, not just commissioner, but parent of one detained there, this interests me intensely. So is there any word, these people got a name or anything more than a sheet of paper?
Sure. Mr. Chairman?
Of course.
Happy to ask Nikki Hatch to come on up. And Nikki, if you just kind of hit the highlights of the report, again, commissioners, we're happy to answer any questions you might have. Nikki?
Sure. Based on the board's direction, we worked with the sheriff's office to provide a report of recent deaths at the detention facility. Our report before you is focused on 2025 deaths because those are deaths where investigations have been completed. Any deaths that have occurred since the start of 2026, the medical examiner reports have not been finalized, so we don't have any of the details of the cause or the manner of those deaths to be able to provide that information to you today. However, once that information becomes available, we can definitely bring that information to the board with reflecting the 2026 incidents.
Nikki, could you please provide more of an overview of what we found in terms of the deaths over that period of time and sort of how that compares to national statistics, whose responsibility it is to investigate suspicious deaths, that sort of thing?
Absolutely. So let me back up a higher level. So over our report focused on recent deaths, but to help provide that helpful context and understanding the circumstances around those deaths, we provided a very detailed overview of LCSO's investigative processes. That includes for any death that occurs at the facility, investigations, criminal and administrative investigations are conducted. both to ensure that no criminal conduct had occurred, nor any missteps in policies or protocols. So again, the report focused on deaths that occurred in 2025. As you'll see in the report, those included 5 deaths, 2 natural causes, 2 accidental drug overdoses, and 1 accidental self-inflicted injury and related medical complications that led to death. There were no findings of foul play with any of these instances, but also this reflects a 0.07% of the total inmate count within the facility in 2025. With that in mind, that percentage is about half of the national mortality rate for local jails based on the U.S. Department of Justice's data available on this. And the underlying causes of each of these deaths broadly align with DOJ's national mortality data among local jails. So again, this focuses on 2025, but as information becomes available, we'd be happy to bring it back on more recent incidences at the facility.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Commissioners, as has been indicated, lifted up to us, 5 people passed. 2 of those were drug overdoses or overdose of some sort, I didn't say drug, but overdose. I'm not sure that what protocol allows for, I don't know if these were legal drugs or if those were drugs that were of a medicinal prescribed nature. I don't know, but overdose, that's concerning. One of these victims, that 72-year-old male, died from cancer. Supposedly, the other is a 36-year-old male, pulmonary embolism, and I'm not sure what that is, but I am concerned about the 26-year-old that stands out, and this thing called cause of death to be accidental due to severe cerebral edema, which is an extensive brain swelling caused by inflammation resulting from self-inflicted head trauma, with concussive head trauma listed as a contributing condition. And and then later it indicates that one accidental death involving self-inflicted head trauma. Really? That concerns me, self-inflicted head trauma. Someone just self-inflicts trauma on their head to the extent that their brain swells and the coroner writes a report. I am concerned, and I think that commissioner should be looked at. I would like to ask this commission for a more extensive investigation. I'm not happy about that at all, that this is just so flaky. 26 years old, someone hitting themselves in the head. And we quietly say the grace and move on. I don't know what steps, Mr. Chairman, are available to us, but that is bothersome. And I'm wishful, hopeful that there's more we can do. Are there additional steps that we could do to look at a 26-year-old dying in custody from head trauma? Attorney can advise us. Do we have any other steps?
Thank you. Commissioner Proctor, I want to, Commissioner Cummings in the queue. I have a couple commissioners. I want to hear what they have to say on this item, and I'll come back to you. Commissioner Cummings.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. I first of all want to thank County Administrator and the staff for their research on this, and I know they had to work in conjunction with the Sheriff's Office to gather this information, and I guess we pretty much have a snapshot of each specific inmate, the 4 that are entailed in the information that we have, and just a snapshot of, and a summary of what happened to them and their ultimate demise. So, perhaps maybe more information. But from my standpoint, when I read this report, I was really enlightened and encouraged about the overall process that the sheriff takes and that his department takes when an individual is incarcerated. And I was impressed by of the information that indicated within the first 2 hours of a person, an individual being admitted to the jail, that they receive a very thorough examination, physical, mental, so forth. And it just, it informed me that the sheriff is looking at those individuals, those newly incarcerated individuals from a holistic standpoint, that they're not just part of a cattle call. Now, perhaps something more specific might be uncovered, but right now I think for them to look at each one of those incarcerated individuals to determine whether they have pre-existing conditions, whether it's hypertension, whether it's cancer, whether they have mental issues, whether they have drug addiction, alcohol addiction, just screening each one of those inmates and then having a profile on each one, I think is very informative, and it lets us know, I think, that the sheriff and his staff is not just hoarding those individuals out there at the detention center as chattel. They are looking at them as individuals, and it just reminded me of what we've agreed as a commission to put on the ballot in the fall as a constitutional amendment. And I think it was recommended by School Board Member Darrell Jones that we embrace as a county I believe he phrased it as the esteemed humanity of all citizens. And I think what the sheriff is doing, at least from an intake standpoint, is recognizing those individuals, even though they have been charged with lesser crimes to the more serious crimes, they are still human beings. The sheriff is part of Leon County government. I respect him. I think he does a great job protecting us from a law enforcement standpoint. But I think it just shows us the type person that he is, if part of that procedure, Mr. Chair, whether you got an individual that's been convicted of a serious, it's a misdemeanor, whether it's a traffic, whatever the minimum infraction is that determines that you have to be incarcerated for a minimum amount of time, those individuals are still recognized as human beings. And I think that's very, very important. But then to have a dossier and a profile on each one of those inmates, I think that's very important, and it shows some individualistic concerns about the status, the mental condition, the emotional condition, the medical and physical condition of each one of those persons that are incarcerated, who could very well be my brother, my sister,
Or my son.
my husband, your wife, Commissioner Proctor's son. So from that standpoint, I want to thank staff. I was just very encouraged when I saw all the steps that the sheriff takes to individualize those individuals that are incarcerated. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Cummings. Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you. Let me skip Commissioner Minor. I'm good with it.
Go ahead, yeah, I'm going down.
Oh, thank you. I just wanted to say I appreciate the sheriff getting this to us pretty quickly. And part of this report included 1 or 2 deaths through that were participating in the sheriff's hospice program. And anyone who's lost a family member who's been through hospice, they know how helpful that is. And so I just really appreciate the sheriff's office initiating and having hospice available for those detainees. As was said by Commissioner Cummings, those are everyone deserving the same dignity and respect that we have.
Mr. Minor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I also want to thank our county staff for working on this agenda item, as well as the sheriff's office and the staff at the Leon County Detention Facility. As I read this agenda item, I was very much encouraged by what was in here. And I wanted to point out a couple things that I think parts of have been referred to already, but for folks that maybe are at home that haven't had a chance to read this, I want to point this out because our sheriff's office, the folks at the detention facility, I believe are doing a very good job. We talk about the process. As soon as someone is arrested, shortly after intake, a medical assessment is done on them to gauge their health status. So that's what Commissioner Cummings was talking about before. In the event of an inmate death, the medical examiner basically assesses the death and it determines the cause. Immediately after that fatality, someone from the Criminal Investigations Bureau, a detective, is on the case to determine whether or not anything criminal or untoward was conducted during the course of that person's passing. Then there's an administrative investigation by the Office of Internal Affairs. That investigation takes a look within the department, within the policy, to make sure that during the course of that person passing away, was there anything internally that was done that was not compliant with policy? What things could we learn from that incident that could maybe change policy going forward? So I wanted to spend just a minute talking about that process because if you haven't had a chance to read the agenda item, it goes into a lot of detail about that. Second thing, of the 5 deaths that took place in 2025, there was no evidence of foul play after those investigations had been conducted. And the third thing, and this is the most important it's the thing that really leapt out at me when I read the agenda item. The mortality rate in the Leon County Detention Facility is less than half the mortality rate nationwide in similar facilities. So let me say that again. The mortality rate in our Leon County Detention Facility is less than half what it is nationwide. That is a good indication of the performance of our sheriff's office. Could there be things that need to be improved? Perhaps. I mean, there always is. But after reading this agenda item, if you're interested in the subject matter, take a few minutes and read it. I think you'll see that there's good work being done. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Maddox.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just wanted to shout out the young group who came and spoke to us at our last meeting about the incident that happened. And their curiosity is what led us to the point that we're having this conversation today. I wanted to recognize Commissioner Proctor for listening to those young people and having the wherewithal to ask for that motion for this to come back. As I told them, and I'll tell anyone, I have complete confidence in our sheriff, and I share a lot of Commissioner Minor and all the commissioners spoke's opinion on the sheriff and the job that he does in our detention center. I love the ideas that you brought up, Commissioner Cummings. Absolutely love those ideas. Maybe something we can implement. But all in all, I just want to take the opportunity to recognize the fact that this is Leon County government being responsive to our citizens, listening to the things that they like for us to look at, digging into those things, taking a look at them, and coming up with our own thoughts on what we think and how we can move forward. And so, Commissioner Proctor, thank you to that group that came and spoke. Thank you to those folks as well. And I look forward to any further discussions we have. But again, I think the sheriff does a good job. Less than half of what the national average is a good thing. Again, you never want to lose anybody's life when they're in your care. And so losing one life is one too many when it comes to someone being in your care. But the more detail we can have about what happened, the better off we're going to be. And I think the sheriff was responsive and painting us a good picture here. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Maddox. Commissioner Proctor, you want anything else you want to close this out?
I want to thank the commissioner for their input, and I think that we all saying the very same thing. I think that we all are saying that our sheriff is a A++++ sheriff. No one here is disagreeing with that as an established idea. And yet, as the governing body for an undergirding funding body for our constitutional officers, which include the sheriff and numerous other entities of Constitution designated governmental bodies, tax collector, supervisor election who are here tonight, all of those and others. Yet it's not beneath the scope of our time to ponder, and I indicated a 26-year-old male, it's a 26-year-old female, where the medical examiner ruled the cause of death to be accidental due to brain swelling stuff. it sounds like somebody got hit in the head. You know, I'm just a layperson. Yeah, I've never seen a police report that ever said that the police had a problem or done anything. It's always sanitized, whitewash. But me as a layperson thinking, they said self-inflicted. Over in Valdosta, Ben Crump represented, they said the guy wrapped himself up in Valdosta High School gym, he wrapped himself up in a mat. So agencies typically indicate that they've done no wrong, nothing has occurred, they've perpetrated nothing, and that the deceased, the victim, often they was the cause of it. And I'm not arguing the point, I'm simply looking at somebody 46, 36, 26, 36 dies, and this is irregular. County Attorney, are there any other things that we might do if this is just the general length of scope of jurisdiction that we might have to hear additional information, in particular about the 26-year-old female?
The sheriff is an independent constitutional officer. He runs his office and his law enforcement, performs his law enforcement functions. That's within his purview. He has established the processes that are outlined in the agenda item. The board can request additional information from the sheriff's office, but in terms of being able to direct any activity or exercise any authority over the sheriff, that is not consistent with the scope or the lack of authority that the county commission has over the sheriff.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We are out of rope, and I'll follow up with the sheriff, specifically on the 26-year-old person. And if it was me, I would want you all to double check, be sure the custody of anybody who has public stewardship over my safety and well-being. And so it is that we share the idea of being our brother and our sister's keeper. No further comment, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Commissioner Proctor. All right, all those, that we have a motion on the floor by Commissioner Proctor. Who seconded the motion?
Cummings.
I think I did.
Commissioner Cummings, you second? Commissioner Maddox, did you second the motion?
Yes.
Okay. All right, so Commissioner Proctor moved the motion, second by Commissioner Maddox. I have no one else in the queue for staff recommendation. All those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Next item, I believe we're on our first item of general business.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Item number 18 to be, right?
Mr. Chairman, my fault. On the previous consent agenda, we had one more speaker's card turned in. Maya Schenefeld under the climate emergency resolution.
Under the what?
Under item number 12.
Okay, thank you. What was the name?
Maya Schenefeld.
Hi, Maya.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Maya Schenefeld. I'm a student here in Leon County, and I'm the lead organizer of Gen Cleo, so I'm here today on behalf of them. Before my time at Gen Cleo, my colleagues Samantha Caddis and Nia Ogletree, along with many other young people in Leon County, worked together to write the climate emergency resolution, which is coming up later on the agenda. This resolution was written by young people who are concerned about their future. And along with this resolution, we developed a wonderful relationship with county staff and county commissioners, along with local allies. I worked a lot on the preemption bill, House Bill 1217, during the legislative session, so I understand the full scope of what's going on and why county staff is recommend rescinding the amendment. At first glance, it may make some sense, but having followed the legislation, I believe we do not have to do this. I understand not wanting to put a spotlight on Leon County as this bill goes into effect on July 1st, and I wish to keep the resolution and amend it like the other 7 items on the agenda. I want to thank the county staff's Office of Sustainability for growing and sustaining our relationship since 2023. It is really appreciated. We ask that regardless of this decision, county commissioners and county staff continue to work with us and create a new resolution. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Last speaker? Okay, great. Will you introduce item number 18, please?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, item number 18, Commissioners, is the item that seeks the board's acceptance of the 2026 legislative session final report. Commissioners, you're used to my speed reading in introducing agenda items, I know, but I'm going to ask for your indulgence just a moment while I slow it down just a little bit, given the nature of this item. Nikki and Ken will provide a brief presentation recapping the 26th session and, of course, the special session on property taxes in just a moment. But, Commissioners, this is the first meeting that we've had since the legislature passed the property tax amendment on June 2nd. And given its significance, I didn't want to bury the lead here. And so I would like to provide just a few important introductory comments for the board and for the public before I hand it off. To begin, Commissioners, put very plainly, as I said back at your annual retreat earlier this year, the proposal would be a fiscal crisis by design, the constitutional amendment. As I mentioned, the proposal has been drawn, the design has been drawn, and it will be placed on the November ballot. As the board's well aware, the proposed constitutional amendment will result in a historic reduction to the county's primary revenue source, and if passed and fully implemented, may result in a historic change in the very role and function of county government. And that's the intent. I think we should be very clear about how we communicate that going forward, because it is a stark reality. Commissioners, Leon County has a very long and proud history and a distinguished record of responsible fiscal stewardship. This board and those that have come before you have been very deliberate in how you govern, meeting the greatest needs of our community through the provision of critical services, essential services, and how you budget with transparency and efficiency that stands as a national model. 14 years of flat countywide millage rates, one of the leanest budgets per capita in Florida, are with debt paid down and leveraging tens of millions of dollars each year due to our strategic investments in our community and our record of performance. Commissioners, this record is not an accident. How we make local budgeting decisions is not a bug. It's with sound financial planning, fiscal constraint, in the public and with the public year in and year out. I provide this historical context for you, Commissioners, because of what happened in our state capitol and because of how quickly it happened. On May 27th, the governor announced his proposal in Tampa. On June 2nd, 6 days later, it passed both chambers of the legislature here in Tallahassee. 6 days, Commissioners, to unravel how every Florida community pays for what keeps it safe, livable, and thriving. The amendment passed with no fiscal study, no revenue replacement. The trust fund that the governor announced that was provided in his own announcement was gone by final passage. Commissioners, there's a mentality that's drifted, if you'll forgive me, from our national politics into our state politics of, and you've heard this, move fast and break things. Maybe good for tech bros, but I would suspect that it's probably not the path toward good governing. Let me be very clear. What took 6 days to break may take this board months, if not years, if we stay on the path to full property tax elimination. I think we should probably take them at their word, to try to piece together what's left along the way. And the result, we should be fully aware, may be a county government that looks and functions very differently than it does today. The work begins this summer with your budget workshops, as we will illustrate here in a moment in the presentations. I will describe, Commissioners, in greater detail in your budget workshops in June and July what this work will entail. Suffice to say, Commissioners, it will involve an evaluation of deep cuts in services and revenue enhancements, with the board making all the decisions, eyes wide open, with all the information available to us. Of course, state mandates, public safety, providing for a safe and functioning infrastructure, those will be protected to the greatest extent possible, and they must. What remains to be determined is the impact on everything else that makes a community more than a set of mandates. Everything from libraries, parks, and trails, to veteran services, to EMS, to animal control, to serving our most vulnerable populations and all the ways we do that, all heavily dependent on the property tax revenue which will be lost if this amendment is passed. Those choices, Commissioners, will be driven by hard math, the hard math of those revenues lost, and the limited and difficult ways the law will allow or the law will constrain our ability to offset those impacts going forward. Ken Morris will go into some specifics in just a moment, Commissioner, but here's the bottom line. For Leon County, it means an estimated $71 million a year gone over just the next couple of years with no replacement revenue contemplated. In today's dollars, that would mean the county would collect roughly $165 million in property taxes. To put that in perspective, that's coincidentally about the same amount of money that we would budget this year to cover only our state mandates and constitutional officers' budgets alone. Well, it leaves about $3.5 million to be exact, Commissioners, to fund everything else. And all of our local services, all of those funded entirely by property taxes, today adds up to about $75 million. Commissioners, because of the magnitude and the timing of these impacts, again, this will be a major focus at your upcoming summer workshops. And the work will really ramp up throughout the budget development process through the fiscal year of 26, should the measure pass. Commissioners, again, I want to thank you for your indulgence. As I said, this is the first time that we've been together since the legislation passed during the special session. I also want to thank commissioners for providing remarks and testimony during the meetings of the legislature. I can promise you, commissioners, you were well represented. With that, as a brief introduction, commissioners, I'd like to hand it off to Nikki for a quick recap of the legislative session. And as I mentioned, Ken will walk us through the major provisions and the timelines associated with the property tax amendment. Both will be quick, and again, all with a lot greater detail in your upcoming budget workshops. With that, Nikki, I'd like to hand it off to you.
Nikki, 1 second, please. Commissioners, before we get started, I want to acknowledge a few people. We also have our Supervisor of Elections, Mark Early, is here. Supervisor of Elections, great to see you. We have Leon County Tax Collector, Doris Malloy, great to see you. We have School Board Member Daryl Jones, that's also here. If any of you all would like a moment to speak unrelated to how this may affect your offices, you are more than welcome to. I just want to open the floor to each of you. Also, we have a good friend and former Miami-Dade County Commissioner, Linda Bell. Thanks for being here. So yeah, Nikki, the floor is yours.
Sure. Thank you, Chairman. As a quick recap, Commissioners, during the 2026 legislative session, we tracked nearly 500 bills, and those included over 30 property tax-related bills, and that was during the regular 60-day session alone. Since March, the legislature has held 3 special sessions, the first taking place in April on congressional redistricting, followed by the May special session to finalize the state budget, and the most recent on property tax reform held last week. As Vince mentioned, Ken will be providing a more detailed update on property tax reform in just a moment, but first I'm going to quickly recap some highlights on other big legislative issues from this session that are of interest of the county. And while this will be a fairly brief presentation, all of the issues I touch on and many more are included in the report before you. Aside from property tax reform, of the hundreds of bills that we tracked this session, we've provided a top 3 list of bills that passed this session, although there are several honorable mentions also included in the full report. First on the list is the widespread prohibition on diversity, equity, inclusion efforts set forth under Senate Bill 1134, which prohibits local governments from adopting, implementing, or funding any DEI-related policy, program, or initiative. As we previously shared with the board, this legislation will impact a number of county programs and policies, and we'll be bringing a series of agenda items on this issue ahead of the January 1st effective date, such as the item on tonight's agenda related to our MWSBE program. The next on the list is House Bill 1217, the Net Zero Preemption. This bill, at a high level, restricts local governments from adopting, advancing, or funding net zero policies or carbon reduction initiatives. While a number of the county's sustainability efforts will continue unchanged, this bill will require targeted adjustments to a defined set of county policies and programs, which we'll see outlined in another item on today's agenda to ensure our compliance ahead of this bill's July 1st effective date. And the last one on our top 3 list is House Bill 1329, known as the Local Government Financial Transparency and Accountability Act, which sets forth new requirements for our annual budget development process. We are already in compliance with the majority of the bill's provisions, but one new requirement worth highlighting is the annual budget exercise the board will be required to conduct beginning next year. Specifically, the board will be required to annually identify strategies to potentially reduce the next year's budget by 10%. Here's the tricky part. These strategies can't include any reductions to law enforcement, fire services, or legal obligations. While the board won't be required to implement these strategies, we will have to post them on our website on an annual basis. If signed by the governor, this bill will take effect also on January 1st. This session, we also worked hard with our contract lobbyists, the Southern Group, on the county's local appropriation funding request. And I'm happy to report, commissioners, that we successfully secured $3 million in the state budget for our Woodville Sewer Project, backup generators at various county sites, the hardening of our Public Works building, and security improvements at the county courthouse. $11 million in county project funding requested this session as approved by the board at its legislative workshop. And as shared with the board at that time, this is just a small fraction of the state funding the county will seek to leverage this year, with the majority of funding being secured through executive agency appropriations and grant programs. This includes funding allocated through FDOT's 5-year work program, such as the $20 million in funding that's been programmed over the next 2 fiscal years for the widening of Crawfordville Road. Commissioner Proctor, I know this is a project of interest to you, and I'm happy to share that construction is now set to begin in fiscal year 28 on the first segment of this project in Leon County. But to round this out, as you see up on the screen, each of these line item allocations are subject to the governor's review, so we'll keep the board updated on the outcome of these requests once the budget is officially signed by the governor. Of course, in addition to the state budget and the bills covered, the most significant legislation passed this year was the governor's property tax reform proposal. As we've reported to the board, this proposal will destabilize the county's primary and most reliable funding source if passed by voters in November. So now I'd like to hand it over to Ken to touch more on the proposal and what it would mean for Leon County in the coming years.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I got the easy part, right? So to start my portion of the presentation, I'm going to do something a little bit unusual for a presentation on legislation. I'm going to jump to the end of the constitutional amendment, one of the latter sections. I want to highlight a key section because I think it provides context that's important to understand. It echoes some of the remarks made by the county administrator. With property tax reform, the headline is always, what's the fiscal impact? And in this case, it's deservedly so. But on this slide, you have Section 9 of the constitutional amendment as initially proposed, before any amendments. So it just first came out right after the governor's announcement. The language is important because it provides insight into the mindset of legislative leaders. And it really echoes what we heard last year from the House Select Committee on Property Tax Reform. At that time, they discussed property taxes as a bad thing that local governments relied on. They saw property taxes as something that should be very narrowly focused in preference for fee-based alternatives. And they did these comparisons, and they ranked counties as who was more or less reliant on property taxes. They ranked counties versus cities. And they came up with this priority list. But again, at the end of the day, their position was you should use property taxes only for very limited fundamental core services. So again, it's important because I think this section reflects that this language and those conversations last year is consistent with the philosophical approach that property taxes should have the narrow purpose. I added the bold and underlined emphasis to point out some of the exclusionary language that they use here. Ad valorem taxes levied by counties and cities shall be used only for. So even though the property tax amendment had an enormous impact on this local governments throughout the state, this was the home rule battle within the bigger property tax amendment fight. This was about control. This was about limiting your available resources, because to local governments, property taxes is the most pliable form of revenue. You know, restricted revenues like tourist development taxes, building fees, very finite set of uses for those fees. Gas taxes go to roads. Property taxes used for just about everything. And as you can see from this list, there's a lot of things that the county does, a lot of services the county provides that aren't on here. The list doesn't account for property taxes to pay for parks, code enforcement, veteran services, primary health care, constitutional officers, except for the sheriff, and doesn't provide for paying county commissioners, for that matter. So again, this was the big battle, aside from what are the overall fiscal impacts. I think with this language in the amendment process, you see ultimately in the committee process, the legislature provided this catch-all. They realized the problem here with this exclusionary only for language, and they added this paragraph G that basically covers all the county and constitutional officers' operational needs. So for the time being, and what's proposed on the November ballot, there's no longer concern about the exclusionary language, but going forward, it's something to expect. And it just reinforces the need to examine alternative revenues aside from property taxes. I think when you look at this list, the A through F, you can see the direct correlation between this language and the difficult choices ahead. Because as the county administrator spoke to earlier, you're not going to have much revenue, property tax revenue left to fund county services beyond some of the basic items you see in A through F. Commissioners, I'm just going to walk quickly through the provisions of the bill. I know most of you are familiar with the two homestead exemptions. I want to talk about the timing of it. You may see that there's a $150,000 exemption in 27, a $250,000 exemption in 28. Just to be clear on that, those years speak to the individual property value. The assessed value will change on January 1 of 2027 if voters approve this. The January 1 values inform your FY28 budget. So that would be the first time the homestead exemptions impact a county budget. The January 1 values change in 27, it impacts the FY28 budget. The following year, the values change January 1 of 28 to the 250, that'll impact your FY29 budget. The constitutional amendment also provides a provision directing the legislature to establish by general law uniform procedures for counties and municipalities to fully eliminate all non-school levies on homestead properties. So that language is a little bit permissive, but if this amendment passes in November, will the legislature wait and see and let the next couple of years play out and see how local governments address some of these funding shortfalls? Or will they return to Tallahassee in December and write the next phase of this by general law, not a constitutional amendment? Important provision to keep an eye on. The next one is the automatic inflation growth. If you recall, 2 years ago, 2024, there was a constitutional amendment on the ballot that added an inflationary adjustment to a portion of the homestead exemption. So $25,000 that only applies to, I shouldn't say only, that applies to all governments but schools. So it's a small inflationary adjustment, had a $300,000 or so impact to our current year budget. But now this is going to apply to the new exemptions. So a small inflationary adjustment to what will potentially be a $250,000 exemption, it's going to limit our year-over-year collection of revenues and growth in revenues. The 5-year residency requirement, I like to call, get in while you can. If you have a homestead exemption before the end of the calendar year, you're in, you'll be eligible for the additional exemptions. If not, you'll have to wait 5 years. You'll be stuck with what is the current exemption of $50,000 for local governments, but after 5 years, you'll be eligible for the full $250,000 or whatever the legislature may propose looking ahead. The non-homestead cap, this is for non-homestead properties, commercial properties, rental properties, second homes. The cap limits the growth in taxable value year over year, similar to Save Our Homes for homestead properties. The non-homestead cap is 10% right now. This proposal would reduce it to 5%. This initially was approved by voters in 2008. It was renewed in 2018, but now it's going to get cut in half. So again, that's going to impact our year-over-year growth. The last piece you have here, last provision, it's actually not part of the constitutional amendment. It's part of a separate bill that was approved by the legislature during the property tax reform special session. This relates to maximum millage rates. So every year, you're adopting your budget. There's a formula that goes into calculating your maximum millage rate and how many votes are needed among this board to levy the millage and adopt your budget. Maximum millage rates have been in place since 2009. And again, it's just a formula to determine the voting thresholds. Will a simple majority suffice? Will a supermajority is required, or is a unanimous vote of the board required, depending on how high you want to levy the millage? This proposal will modify the formula by eliminating an inflationary adjustment. So that could be about a 4 to 6% adjustment that's no longer included in our year-over-year millage calculations. What does that mean? It's going to shrink your growth again year over year. And if you want to go further, it's going to require a supermajority vote, up to 110% of the baseline. So what did you generate last year? What do you want to generate this year? How much more is it? If it's more than 110% of your baseline as established in the formula, that may require a supermajority or unanimous vote. Commissioners, I know the county administrator highlighted some of the financial impacts. This is just an example to make it a little more personal, help people understand the impacts of the county budget, and kind of make it a little more real. This is the kind of information we're making available. It's being posted on the county website. And if anybody requests it, happy to provide it to them. But of course, and I'm looking at the county attorney so I don't get in trouble, because this is going to be on the ballot, we are very much limited in any form of education. At one time years ago, we couldn't advocate. There are limitations in how we use funds to even educate the public. So other than providing information in limited forms, now this is our best way to provide anticipated impacts associated with the amendment. And finally, Commissioners, the county administrator talked about looking ahead and what to expect this summer. This is the really easy big picture, looking through next week to developing the FY29 budget. But there's going to be a lot of steps along the way. Starting with next week, county administrator is going to recommend some stopgap measures as part of the FY27 budget. Again, the 27 budget is not impacted, the values aren't impacted from the amendment, but of course, we want to be proactive, we want to get ahead of it. There's opportunities to start reducing expenditures and preparing for the amendment. Next month, in July, we're going to lay out the long-term fiscal and operating restructuring timeline. All the items that are going to come back to you over the course of 6 to 12 months, all the information you need to make informed decisions from evaluating mandatory services to non-mandatory services, any efficiencies within the county organization, level of service reductions, voluntary separation policies. You're familiar with the city, went through it. We've done that before in the past. We're going to bring all that information to you, cost recovery, fee structures, you name it. What are your options if you want to raise the millage rate going forward? We don't think it's going to be enough to cover the offset and the loss, and the legislature could come back and restrict your ability to offset the losses. That's to be determined. So we're going to provide you that outline so you know what to expect and when decisions will be needed after the election and in preparation for the FY28 budget. And then we'll have to do it again for FY29. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. That concludes.
Thank you. Ken, quick wrap up, commissioners. Again, the vote's in November, but as you see here, the work begins now, beginning with your budget workshops next week. As I mentioned, commissioners, this will be a very thorough and difficult process, rest assured. We'll do it all with the same professionalism, diligence, and transparency that we conduct all of our public policy and local government decision-making here at the county. Always have, always will. With that, we recommend option 1. We're happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, commissioners. Talking pretty frequently as we get to budget processing. Right now, we're going to move forward with our scheduled budget workshops. However, if we need additional workshops, we can talk about scheduling those as well, just so the board's fully informed of what's been going on. Commissioner Proctor, you're in the queue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioners, I wanted to suggest that as we look ahead to this incredible amount of startling information, thanking our staff for its clarity and deciphering the militancy of Florida's legislature to limit municipalities as well as county governments. There is no doubt, and I've never heard.
Commissioner Proctor, can you make a motion?
I move staff's recommendation, Mr. Chairman.
Great. Motion for staff recommendation by Commissioner Proctor, second by Commissioner Maddox. Commissioner Proctor, you have the
Thank
floor.
you. I've never heard Ms. Long give the kind of opening that he did today. To hear him in that disposition really is troubling and strikes urgency within my heart. I think that while the legislature took 6 days from the time the governor requested a special session to eliminate and to strike this injurious action toward communities of Florida, looks like the state wants to run all the counties, the state wants to run all of the cities, the state wants to run. And then to bend and shape and make the counties merely an administrative tool to make certain that the constitutional officers of state are funded, and our roles will be nothing more, but the state is going to run everything. I think that this deserves, certainly in the spirit of the 250th year of the American Revolution, we damn sure need to strike a revolution, and our counties and our municipalities need to stand up. I disagree, and I asked the county attorney to note that my number one legal objection and concern is with whether a state legislature can impose a willful act to flatten, to disintegrate, and to decimate its counties and its municipalities in this manner. I disbelieve that it's constitutional that the legislature can create havoc and financial economic instability where there is no cause to do so. There has been no ask from county administrators for the legislature to do this. City managers have been asked. County commissioners have not. the Florida League of Cities have not. This has not come from the people of our state to seek this kind of calamity to be imposed upon the people of Florida. And this is why it behooves us. It's much cheaper for us to file a lawsuit and go downstairs in this very building and duke it out and fight it out over the legalities of what we're looking at. Also, with respect, Attorney Commissioner Cummings, to differential outcomes, with respect to the differential impositions of what we cannot do in response to our problem, the state is telling us if you get Ebola, economic Ebola, you can't even cure yourself. You can't, these prescriptions are off limits, this is all. You can't even react to save yourself, to do anything. All of that is being cut off. And I think that as we look at this issue and the myriad of counties, and there are 67 different responses, that is not, it violates the Equal Protection Clause because there is not a uniform measure by which we all can die. Now, if all of our counties just agree to drink cyanide and close our eyes and go, but everybody's going to die a slow, dastardly death. And I think that that it's not equal in the sense of the lingering nature and suffering for people. Jobs, OEV says today that our last quarter was pretty good. Trust and believe we won't hear reports like this ever again. And so I'm reacting to, Mr. Chairman, the abundance of what I've heard. Commissioner O'Keefe and I went forward across the street into that zone of strife and hostility. And we tried to make a record in the interest of our government and the governments of Florida, local. And I suggest that we don't just take this and this is the end. And the last person, our chairman, will go down with the ship. I'm telling y'all that the Titanic, if this measure passes, that the Titanic is going to go down. And what we're here, what Vince is saying to us, we got to determine if we're going to save children, little children, old women, men. What we are in the process of doing now is taking the few little lifeboats we got, the few little life jackets that we got, and we are determining and creating some basis by which some are going to get on the lifeboat and others going to go down with the ship. It's just that plain. It's that simple. And coming from me, it sounds hard, but coming from the legislature is harder. That's where we are. It's my suggestion to this commission that as we look at fiscal responses, that we take July 14th and we look at budget workshop. 14th is scheduled. But Mr. Chairman, I'm suggesting that it's so much we've got to look at that we might consider Wednesday the 15th as an additional workshop day, because I mean, if we're going to write the eulogy for Leon County, it ought to be a paragraph that we filed a lawsuit for various causes of action, which I won't enumerate. But we have to fight. It would be beneath who we've been for 202 years if we don't fight back. So if we're not fighting, we're going to lose a lot of lives. And I'll pull up right there, Mr. Chairman, and slow down.
Awesome.
You had others to recognize, and so.
I got a few other people in the queue, so I'm gonna go to the vice chair, I got Commissioner Welch and then Commissioner Maddox. Mr. Vice Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before a couple of questions I have, I would just like to echo a lot of what Commissioner Proctor said. Being over there, it was definitely hostile to the purpose of local government and home rule. And the impacts of the proposal, I appreciate staff working quickly and diligently to show the financial impacts. Because this really is a question of, does Leon County want the local government services and community programs that we have? And I will tell you that over across the street, we heard a lot of things about abuse in other counties and things like that. And to me, fighting for this is about fighting for our Leon County voters' rights to choose what kind of government they want. And now with this referendum, that's at the whims of overall Florida voters instead of just Leon County voters. And I just want to say that I am fighting to make sure that all voters know the information and the implication of what this is. This is not a small thing. This is not a little adjustment. And I am proud of the cost-effective and the successful work that Leon County does for our community, and I believe that we do that because our voters want us to do those things. We'll have lots more to talk about that at the workshop. I'll leave that for that. I have a couple questions on some specific legislative issues. It was mentioned in here, one of our legislative priorities is the descheduling or decriminalization of marijuana, and there was an update about federal administration change, and I wanted to know what that was and how that impacts our ability to perhaps take another crack at decriminalizing nonviolent offenses related to small amounts of marijuana.
So as detailed in the report, there has been an interest by the president to explore descheduling marijuana, but an important caveat there is while his executive order was very broad, speaking to marijuana in general, I think his interest is specifically, that's just an important caveat, but more broadly, this is more of a first step. The fact that the federal government is taking interest in this, that's great, and the fact that the president is pushing for this to be expedited, the descheduling process specifically, again, is a good first step. We hope in the future legislation such as the MORE Act will be filed at the federal level. That specifically is a good vehicle for those subsequent changes related to expunging past criminal convictions related to marijuana. So first step in the process, but it is promising.
Thank you. Has there been any success or movement on efforts related to regulating or remediating PFAS chemicals for the Florida or from the feds?
I know I've heard bits and pieces here and there over the past couple months, but I don't have anything specific to provide at this time. But we can get more information to provide for you.
Okay. And then finally, there's a very specific item here. Let me find it. Related to private school, SB 182, commercial zoning of private schools in unincorporated Leon County. That's our description of it. This bill does other things, but there is specific changes that preclude counties from enforcing our current commercial or zoning and use codes in unincorporated areas. And there is a specific school out at Shiloh Farm that a specific owner that wants to build a school that was not able to out in Chairs because of our land code rules. This looks to specifically allow them to over and above any of our local rules. Is that correct? Am I understanding that this statute now allows that particular proposal to allow a school to be built out in Chairs?
So I don't know the specifics of the proposal right now off the top of my head, but what I can confirm is that bill, there was a provision tacked on in the 11th hour that will allow private schools, regardless of enrollment size, to be placed in the unincorporated area, to be permitted as a commercial or mixed use without any rezoning or approval of a land use change. So yeah, that takes a big local part of the process out.
Okay.
Our preliminary read, though, Commissioners, is consistent with yours.
Thank you. This is, for our voters in the chairs community, we have been hearing a lot about this. And I want to say that I've appreciated staff enforcing our comprehensive plan and zoning codes, that we always say, everybody I think gets the impression that if a developer wants to do something, they just do it and they roll over. But in this case, we have had some heavy hitters really want to build a school out there. And up until this Florida law changed, our county has held the line on the rules that we have put in place to protect that community and that street. It's a pretty residential street. And this is a case of not just overall preemption. I think if anyone looks back, this is, we'll just say the fact pattern of that property and the fact pattern of allowing it is very specific to this. And I'm sorry to our constituents that there's not a lot, there's nothing we can do when a specific statute is changed. So, but I also want, when that shows up, I want everyone to know that I appreciate the county for holding the line on our rules. Those are my comments. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. Commissioner Welch, I have you in the queue, but before, I believe the Supervisor of Elections would like to take the dais for a few moments. So, Mr. Supervisor, you have the floor for a few moments.
Appreciate it. Commissioner Proctor asked me to come and give an update on the election prep, and a little bit about the legislative process. We've been faced with a lot of legislative bills that have impacted elections. House Bill 991 to reassure the community as far as the voting ability. That doesn't really affect anyone until after January 1st. As far as the tax cut referendum, I can't speak to that a whole lot because we are counting the votes on that. And so we have to be very careful about any positions we take. We were relieved when we saw the inclusion of that amendment that all county officers and our budgets were part of that. As far as the process of preparing for elections, it's ongoing. Candidate qualifying is going on right now. I see a lot of qualified candidates already in this room. And if there's any questions, I know you're deep into this discussion, so I don't want to preempt that or distract from that. But if there's any questions about what we're doing, I handed out to our county attorney some handouts. We're involved with a lot of communications to the public regarding the need to sign up for vote-by-mail ballots. That gets reset every election cycle. That's going out to all residences in Leon County. We're doing big mass emails and mailings to folks to remind them of some of the statutory changes that do affect this year. But really, if there's any questions, I don't want to distract from this at all. So.
Okay, thank you. Yes, go ahead, Commissioner.
Mr. Chairman, it was significant that the issue about the mail-in ballot, and I think some elections occurring today, a couple states. Ms. Supervisor, help us to understand the changes with mail-in ballots.
Yeah, so there's been several over the years, Commissioner. One of the most impactful was the requirement that you have to re-request a vote-by-mail ballot every election cycle. Most of the community still doesn't know that. We typically get about 45,000 vote-by-mail ballot requests. We are sitting at about 28,000, so about 2/3 of where we normally are. And we are way ahead of the game compared to the rest of the state. I think our citizens are very responsive to our mailings and our outreach, and we applaud that. But a big chunk of our voters they get reminded about the election when they receive their vote-by-mail ballot. And we're all concerned that if they don't request that ballot, they may not actually get a chance to vote. And really, we think of that as it's an insurance policy. If for some reason you can't go out to vote, you can vote the vote-by-mail ballot, but if you request it, you can still vote in person instead of voting the vote-by-mail ballot. Also, there's an issue about drop boxes, secure ballot intake stations. Nothing much has changed as far as that works, but it had some nomenclature type of changes.
And my final question, Mr. Supervisor, is with respect to a community organization, the Delta Sigma Theta voter registration drive, I'll just say next Saturday, this is hypothetical. What has to be solved? And it's become somewhat illegal to register voters. What does a common good community organization has to do to have a legitimate voter registration, not just education, but registration drive? Help us to know what we need to do in this season to do so.
There have been some pretty impactful statutory changes about how voter registration occurs, third-party voter registration. I don't want to get too much into the details, but if for groups that used to go around and pass out or get people to fill out voter registration applications and then collect those and then turn those into our office, which used to happen, that was a large portion of our voter registration applications, that has really slowed down tremendously because if there's been very heavy fines imposed if you turn those in late. The turnaround time for organizations to get that voter registration application to us is extremely tight now. It's, I think, around 10 days, I believe. If they turn it into the wrong county, there's a heavy fine. So there's a lot of fines, and what that does is dissuade folks from getting those voter registration applications to us. Really, the safest way to do it now is to carry a tablet around and let people log into the online voter registration and register that way. But if you do that, you have to have both a Florida ID number and the last 4 years Social Security number available because that's required as part of your registration process, or just hand them the paper registration application and let them take it on their own if they remember.
My final question, Mr. Supervisor, is the felon restoration thingy. Is that as clear as mud yet?
That's a good way to phrase it. Yeah, Amendment 4 passed several years ago. There were a lot of constraints put on that. There's still ongoing confusion. There was someone that was arrested in the middle of the night here a couple years ago that I thank the state attorney for working with me to clarify whether those charges should stick or not. That was, I think, a good partnership to save one of our citizens here from something I think that was very much unwarranted. But yeah, I think there is a tendency for folks to take the easy way out instead of partaking in our democracy once they've returned as a citizen and completed all their obligations. It's confusing as to what they have to do, primarily around the area of legal financial obligations, fines, fees, restitution, that kind of thing, where there's a civil lien placed. So we get a lot of questions about that. As part of the lawsuit with Desmond Meade and his organization, for some reason, I was part of that phone call. And after waiting for about 3 hours, I suggested that we have an advisory opinion process through the Department of State. The judge liked that, and that's really what came to pass as the result there. But most folks don't understand how that works. But there are supposed to be very tight timelines on when the state responds, and if they don't respond within that certain time frame, you are supposed to be able to assume that your rights are restored, your voting rights are restored, except for certain types of felonies.
Very good. Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. Thank you for being here. I'm going back to Commissioner Welch is now in the queue. Oh, okay. Go ahead, Madam Tax Collector. I apologize. I did not know you wanted to speak.
Good evening, Commissioners, Mr. Chairman. So before Supervisor Early leaves, I didn't plan to say anything tonight. I really came here to listen because we're all in a crisis with this property tax amendment, and it definitely impacts the office. But my comment is regarding voting, because that's kind of where it all starts. Driver's license, the numbers have changed. So this is to help you when you go out to the community. Many of your constituents might ask about the driver's license number. I didn't realize so many people actually had memorized their driver's license number, but you know it used to have your birth date in the sequence of numbers. So that's how they remembered that, and now that's no longer the case. So they're wondering, what do I have to do in terms of voting with my number being different they come to my office first, or the tax collector's office first, and they might have a different number. So that's their concern. My number has changed. How does this impact my voting? When you're out in the community, they might ask you those questions. And so I wanted, right here, okay. I wanted Supervisor Early to comment on how we coordinate that with our offices to ensure them, and so you can then ensure your constituents that what the process is.
Thanks for bringing that up. Absolutely. There's a big misconception out there, and we are getting a lot of calls about this. I should have had this on my notes. That with the driver's license change, and frankly with the citizenship impacts that are coming next year, that people are going to have a very, very difficult time voting. We'll see how that works out. I think for the most part, we are going to be getting data. I'm on the work group. I'm on a lot of these work groups with our association to get the data from Highway Safety and Motor Vehicles. But the best advice I would say in response to your question is when you go to get your driver's license updated or you go to their office for any reason, one of the first questions her staff, Ms. Malloy's staff, asks the person is, do you want to update your voter registration information? The answer should always be yes, okay? I was going to talk to you offline. There's some counties that are working with the tax collector and the supervisor of elections to do some public service announcements advising them of that. I'm trying to get some of the local counties within our region to do a joint PSA on that fact. And it's important to tell everyone, don't be afraid to update your voter registration information from HSMV or from the tax collector when you're there. That helps everybody to ensure we have the most up-to-date information and makes the voting process the smoothest it is.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman, I wanted to ask, given all of these changes, these notifications, these mail-outs, the collaboration between different offices, does the supervisor have adequate funding for this cycle of elections that Florida remains a high-class, first-class, democratically based methodology of electing people?
I would answer that this way. First of all, I'm very proud of our hard-won and great relationship and partnership serving our citizens, our voters. My team could not do our job without your all's great help. At this point, I think our budget is good, and our projected budget for next year, I think we came in under, quite a bit under what we projected in recent years as we were coming forward. Having said that, the future is very uncertain, and I'll leave it at that because I can't say a whole lot about this, but there are concerns there. I would like to thank you all for funding the awning over our early voting entrance. It rains a lot out there, and people waiting in line to vote. We don't have many lines, but early voting in my office often has lines, and they've been sitting out there in the lightning and everything, and it's been a tremendous improvement getting that done, so I really appreciate that.
Mr. Chairman, I'll just close out by saying we've had a tremendous supervisor of election office predating our supervisor to this predecessor. And Mr. Early does a great job. One thing that I pray that this commission would do long after I'm gone is that we would give the adequate resources that democracy can be practiced at its highest level. And to the extent that we undergird and fund a competent supervisor of election, and that we're always diligent to make sure that our supervisor of election is well qualified to hold that office, execute that office, but also that as a county commission, that we don't scrimp and pick and get. We need to fund the effort for democracy to flow and never get so cheesy and cheap that we don't sustain this particular office. So those are comments, and I'm grateful for your allowance.
Thank you, Commissioner Proctor.
Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor. Thank you, Madam Tax Collector. Thank you all for being here. Commissioner Welch, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, on the property tax thing, thank you, Nikki and Ken, for the presentation. I would just ask, my sort of posture on this issue is going to be one of just information. And I know there are limitations that the county attorney has given us on how we can communicate or what resources we can use to communicate this stuff. I saw Maya and some of the reporters taking photos of the slides that were presented to us. I would just like to ask the administrator and our media relations department to ensure that we are adequately sending that information out on the channels that we are allowed to, just as informational, and perhaps the attorney can provide a little sort of reminder on exactly what we can and can't do in terms of communicating with the public via our social medias or whatever, non-county resources are utilized. I certainly plan to use my social media to share those graphics and those slides that indicate the math. I mean, we're just talking about math. But I think in terms of my posture as an elected official on the issue, I'm almost 100% of the time going to support a ballot referendum letting citizens vote on an issue, and that's what's happening here. But I think it is important and incumbent on us, as Commissioner O'Keefe mentioned, that we provide full clarity, full transparency about the implications of what these things mean to our constituents. And so I know, or I would anticipate, as we get closer to budget workshops and to November, when this question is on the ballot, we would get more specific information about implications in terms of just real impacts, numbers of employees that could lose jobs, status of libraries, status of mosquito control, status of parks and recreation, status of our EMS programming, the things that are not exempted by the resolution, by the referendum. I think it's going to be very important that we share that. I think it's very important that our news partners share that information far and wide. As the vice chair mentioned, this is a Florida question. I wouldn't be surprised to see this pass clearly in Florida, but not pass in Leon County. But in terms of Leon County's voters and the voters that we can communicate with, I think it's very important that they understand the real-world implications of what is happening. The slides that we just showed, that were just presented to us, are pretty good, pretty clear. I think we need to continue to fine-tune that and just really be specific. These libraries will close. These many people will be laid off. This many ambulance crews will be jeopardized. Mosquito control. This will be the cost of playing sports at Cheris Park or the Northeast Park or whatever. That would just be my request of staff, so that as commissioners, we can communicate that to our constituents. I think that's we're obligated to do that. Madam Attorney, would you mind reminding us all what we can and can't do in terms of communicating using county whatever?
Yes, so the statute, which is 106.113, broadly defines public funds. It's basically any money in the coffers of the county, period. So there tends to be a little distinction about what's permissible before something becomes a ballot question versus after it becomes a ballot question. I don't know if the property tax referendum has officially become a ballot question yet. But what is always permissible is you can always report on official actions of the board in an accurate, fair, and impartial manner. Factual information can be posted on a government website or in printed materials. Commissioners can host and provide factual information at a public forum, and can also provide factual, in the county, can provide factual information in response to an inquiry. What is always prohibited is what's considered to be public advertisements. So cannot pay to send communications to advocate for or against the matter that's going to be on the ballot. Okay? That term is defined in a different section of the chapter. It's in section 106.011. And basically, except for those exceptions that I just mentioned, that prohibition applies to communications initiated by the county, irrespective of whether the communication is limited to factual information or advocates for the passage or defeat of an issue, referendum, or amendment. Okay? So it's the advocacy piece, which really becomes very problematic. Again, posting, providing factual information, anything that can be quantified. Commissioner Welch, you were just talking about real impacts, like very specific, discrete, quantifiable information is what is permissible. Anything that is something that you cannot quantify, that you cannot support by data, or is opinion, generally becomes very problematic, aside from the commissioner's ability to express their own individual opinions about these matters. But it's the outreach piece that is now prohibited. It is the advocacy piece that is prohibited. Social media. It's my understanding, I'm not really into social media, but that certain resources can be used to push out your social media message on different platforms. I don't know what that entails, but I do know you pay for those services. That could be a basis for a complaint and imposition of a fine based on a violation. Social media generally, I can tell you that there is not consensus about whether the use of social media is permissible by the county or an elected official in their official capacity, because there's been no guidance on this, okay? I can tell you that FAC has not yet sent out any guidance on what is prohibited and what is permitted. The League of Cities has. They've basically said, well, given what is expressly permissible, we think that the posting of factual information on social media would be permissible. What is not permissible, though, would arguably potentially be the use of county staff time. I mean, that is a resource, right? To post information on a county website, or, sorry, not website, social media. The use of a county website is completely permissible to post factual information for educational purposes. There's a little bit of gray. The general use of social media to post factual information is probably fine. The use of these services, would not recommend, please don't do that. And again, the need to stay away from advocacy and to try to send information in whatever medium directly to electors, don't do that.
Great, thank you. Commissioner Welch?
Yeah, so we all clear on that? Yeah, like I said, I mean, I intend to be asked, I mean, I expect to be asked a lot about this as we go through the summer, certainly through our recess in August and moving towards November in the fall. I think there's going to be a lot of questions in neighborhoods and in civic groups, and I know I have several of those scheduled over the next few months. So I just want to make sure that, you know, we have the math, we have the most clear information and implications of what's really happening, with, you know, the likelihood that this statewide will happen. I think it's just important that we tell people. I mean, look, I have no doubt that as a government, we're going to do the absolute best we can with what we are allowed to do. And then I think I think it's also important to tell voters or tell the public about the sort of backfilling possibilities here in terms of millage rate increases or fee increases. I think it best not to surprise people if we are up here discussing doubling, whatever, raising the millage on the EMS taxing unit, the MSTU. So again, I just think that it's incumbent on us as the representatives of the board who are the public's, representatives to let them know, like, look, there's going to be considerations probably of millage rate increases, of fee increases, cost increases in enterprise funds, things like that. And I just want to be way out in front of that as much as I can without advocating, one way or the other. Sure. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead, Madam Attorney.
As a point of clarification, just because you're an elected official, in this scenario, you do not lose your First Amendment right to speech as a private citizen, okay? So what I'm trying to make the distinction here is you can feel personally a way about what's being proposed, and you can express those opinions in your private capacity. You need to distinguish that from any opinion you might take and any advocacy you might engage in your professional capacity. So, for example, if you have a social media page that is purely private, that does not at all relate to your official duties, that you do not use for official purposes, that does not recognize you as a county commissioner or anything like that, and you want to post about how you feel about this in your private capacity, and if you do that, by the way, I would expressly say that you are making those statements in your private capacity to be on the safe side, then that's fine. There are instances, for example, where people have commingled their private social media with their official duties, and they post official things on there and everything like that. I would not post any advocacy or position on that sort of a social media page. And that is to try to avoid a complaint being filed against you that you are somehow violating 106.113. But I just want to make that clear that you can still speak in your private capacity as a private citizen, but you need to separate that from your political.
Awesome. I think we hear you loud and clear, Madam Attorney. Thank you for the clarification.
I'm good.
You're good? Commissioner Maddox.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Commissioner Proctor, there's an old saying, we don't know if the gates were put up to keep danger out or to keep us in. When I look at this, there seems to be a lot of good to it. I believe homeowners are feeling real pressure, financial pressure, and those should not be dismissed. I mean, we talk about affordable housing almost every day up here, rising housing costs, insurance premiums, property taxes have created affordability challenges for what many families in Florida think so as well. So, but the unintended consequences of bad policy can create dire situations for those who need government the most. And when I think about what's happening here, what I see, we love to give that relief to our taxpayers. But the balance of that is, do you give so much relief that the local government that they rely on for services can't adequately do their job? We wrestle with that every time we're up here. Do we give such relief to a point that we can't do our job for you? When roads need to be fixed, when services need to be rendered, and we don't have the staff to adequately provide, you're handicapping your local government. It's not just reducing taxes or increasing revenues. Our responsibility is to strike the right balance between affordability for our residents and maintaining a quality that attracts folks right here to our community in Leon County. I don't believe that that should be taken away from Leon County as a government. We understand how to create. I don't think there's anybody in Leon County that does not think we're good stewards of the county dollar. Constitutional amendments have long-term consequences, and I think that's what we're talking about here, long-term consequences. We should evaluate not only the immediate benefit to homeowners, but also the long-term impact on public safety, infrastructure, economic development, and government capacity. We must also consider everyone in this decision. Okay, the homeowner's homestead gets relief. The renter, who is not in a homestead property, if we have to go up on that millage rate, we get the pass-through. That's going to increase the rent to that homeowner. That renter possibly one day wants to own a home. One of the biggest affordability problems we have is the fact that we don't have affordable rentals. And without affordable rentals, those folks can't save money to own a home. Without owning a home, they can't take advantage of this property tax relief that folks are about to vote on. Seniors on fixed income, what about them? Businesses, again, what about them? Future generations, what about them? Good policy should strengthen communities as a whole, not solve the problem for one challenging aspect of our community. We should not fix a problem to create a problem for other folks in our community. Tax relief should be meaningful, again, substantial, and financially responsible. I don't think what the state's trying to do is financially responsible. They care not one bit about the strain that it might put on local governments and how we do our job each and every day. Make no mistake, if this passes, local government will never be the same. Understand this though, Leon County will lead in innovation. We will lead the way in making sure that we do this the right way. I've seen us, Commissioner Proctor has too, lead time and time again through the recession, through big cuts, through everything we had to do. We have been in a position of lead in how we conquered those issues right here in Leon County. So I have complete confidence in my staff that we'll be able to get the job done. But what I don't have confidence in is that the way we have to go about getting the job done will be the same government that our Leon County residents have gotten to be so comfortable with. Simple things. Mosquito control. Most definitely will go. Commissioner Proctor, you remember when I first was elected, we were trying to cut mosquito control. We had this place packed with 200 people saying there's no way on the God's green earth will we let you cut mosquito control. But what if we're in a position that we're picking between mosquito control or being able to fund our sheriff? Mosquito control or being able to fund our libraries? Mosquito control or being able to have enough staff to fix our roads? What are we gonna do then? That's the kind of things that we're looking at right here in Leon County. I believe that we should not view the debate as taxpayer versus local government. I don't think that's the right way to view it. And I think that's the way it's being created. The taxpayer against the local government. How could you, as local government, say no or fight against or speak against taxpayer relief? How could you speak against those folks who have $250,000 homes not having to pay property taxes when they are probably amongst some of the folks that can't afford those $500,000 and $1 million homes? So they probably need a relief the most. Well, that's the way you want to frame the argument, but that's not the real argument. It shouldn't be about taxpayer versus government. It should be that we view a discussion about as we build Florida, how do we remain affordable? How do we remain competitive? How do we remain fiscally, financially sound in a way, again, that does not hurt the least of those, but that gives the relief that our taxpayers may need, while also providing the services that allows me, as a young black boy who grew up in a family of four, the ability to go play city league football without having to pay $700. My mom couldn't afford that. But what do we do when we can't pay for our parks? We can't give Pop Warner any relief. No, you're going to have to pay to rent that field. What do we do when we can't pay for our libraries? When they're open every now and then? Or everybody go to Starbucks, or to Barnes and Nobles? When I remember my first speaking engagement, I'll stop talking, I'm just on a soapbox, but my first speaking engagement, Commissioner Proctor, you might not remember this, was at a library. And I said, I'll never forget it, what I said during that speaking engagement, I said, a book allowed me to travel places that I never would have gotten to see as a young man in Shelby, North Carolina. My first book I read was in a library, a public library. What happens if, as a child, I can't go to a library to read that book? What happens? What happens to me? What happens to my family if they can't rely on their local government to provide the services that they so dependably have provided year after year after year? I just, again, I want anybody to think that this board does not see the financial strain that's put on families when it comes to the rising costs of housing and the affordability problem that we have. That's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about the balance. This is bad policy because it does not have balance. It helps one while crippling the other. That's not good policy. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Max. Commissioner Cummings? Commissioner Cummings?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I won't be long. I just want to thank staff and the county administrator for this analysis. I want to thank Ken and Nikki for their presentations as well. I think we find ourselves in a unique situation for this county, probably a unique situation for all of us as far as what's happening here. And I know we'll discuss it in more detail, Mr. County Administrator, during our workshop. But the supervisor of elections and the tax collector, I think they also see the importance of this and our straits that we're in by them showing up for our meeting, which they don't generally do. But what I'm concerned not only about the millions that we will lose here in Leon County, but also about the restrictions on what's left. We're restricted on how what's left, if anything is left, can be used. And just hypothetically, Madam County Attorney, based on this legislation in these specific 3 areas that we can, if this passes, number 1, we're restricted to 3 delineated areas that ad valorem taxes can be spent in those areas. And the way I look at it is those areas do not involve any expenditures for human services. So hypothetically, if there was funds, hypothetically, even with the tax cuts, if we had sufficient funds to do what we needed to do, we still couldn't spend money in areas where we address human services now. Am I interpreting that correct, Madam County Attorney?
Mr. Chairman, I could take that. Commissioner, yeah, and I think as you saw in Ken's overview there, there were previous versions of the legislation prior to it passing that articulated and identified just specific funding categories where the board would be restricted to fund only those things. That was amended, and there was an amendment placed to give the board much broader flexibility in funding everything. The problem is the money that will be available to fund those things.
We wouldn't have it.
On one hand, again, the final legislation did broaden the available categories of funding, the allowable uses of funding. But again, it hardly matters when you consider the reduction.
Right, and that's law enforcement, right. But I looked at those specific areas and how they were expanded, but I could not identify anything for human services at all. Even with the amendments, now they had also indicated a trust fund to assist certain counties, that would really be devastated by this legislation. But I didn't see where that was placed in the second amendment when they actually passed it with the governor. So what I see this as, it's a direct attack on home rule. It's a direct attack on the ability of municipalities and counties to direct what goes on locally. What's good for Leon County might not be good for Dade County. Okay, it might not be good for Orange County, Osceola County, but they have taken the ability of local people, local elected officials, to make the decision about where services need to be directed. And we have a blanket now legislation that says it doesn't matter if you have dire needs in this specific area in Leon County, you're going to expend your money the same way Miami-Dade or Osceola or Orange or Wakulla spends their money. And it just baffles me that our legislature, Florida legislature, they just lost sight of that. It just took all of our local ability away to help, to help the local people. So anyway, Mr. County Administrator, I have all respect and confidence in your great staff. I'm looking forward to the workshop. I know that we will have some viable options about what to do, what not to do. But leading up to the election this fall, I think we have to just continue to be vigilant, diligent, and even in looking at our budget for the next year, I think we have to be concerned as well about what the possibilities are and what we as a board might have to just have to stand up for the citizens of Leon County, and just we've got to make some tough decisions, and I recognize that. So anyway, I thank you for all the hard work. I thank our federal lobbyists, our state lobbyists, for the bacon that they brought home, because they did bring home. Thank you guys for all of your hard work, and we just look forward to our workshop and the tough road ahead. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Cummings. Commissioners, I'll close us out on this. First and foremost, Nikki, you've done a phenomenal job in your position. There's been a lot of challenges. I really do believe that you are doing an incredible job. To our lobbying team, our outside lobbyists, Brian, your team, I see a lot of wins in here. And so I appreciate the work that you guys are doing. It's back-to-back years with some solid wins. Let's make sure that we do what we can to avoid the veto pen of the governor. And so that way we can bring home some wins for our constituents. So thank you to the two of you. Commissioners, I'll talk about the property tax issue in a moment, but there are a few things in here that I think is important highlighting. One, Nikki, what was the bill that related to the surcharge on utility fees for sewer?
I believe it's 1451, House Bill 1451.
Oh, and that bill strips the ability for utility companies to charge surcharges on unincorporated residents?
Essentially, municipal utility providers such as the City of Tallahassee will now be capped on the surcharge that they're allowed to charge on residents outside their boundaries, such as those in the unincorporated area. Currently, they're able to charge 50%. This legislation will now cap them at 25%. But one important note in the bill is if that municipal utility provider currently utilizes their revenues for any bond obligations, that phase out of that 25% will not be required until fiscal year 2029. We have been in conversations with the city. They have confirmed that they do use their revenues for bonds. So with that in mind, we anticipate that their surcharge cap won't be in effect until that 2029 deadline.
Okay, thank you. Commissioners, I think that that's a great bill for our unincorporated residents. I've been very vocal the last few years. I think it's wrong that municipal utilities can charge surcharges on unincorporated residents, especially 50%. The way our agreement has been with the city, although we're doing the work on expanding all the sewer throughout Leon County, unincorporated. We did it on the north side. Now we're doing it down in Woodville. And then we're essentially just giving the utility, we're giving the infrastructure to the city. And then they're charging a surcharge on our unincorporated residents. So I'm thankful for the city to provide the service. And I'm very happy about this bill particularly. This is going to roll money right back into our unincorporated residents. I'll be advocating for this to be signed by the governor. One thing that we have to keep in mind, Madam Attorney, we currently have an interlocal agreement with the city related to this bill. And I believe last year they sent us a letter saying that they intend to renegotiate. Could you provide some context on that?
Generally, there is an agreement that ties the use of certain city facilities to their ability to impose the surcharge in the unincorporated area. I have not received a letter this year like we received last year, so I don't know what the city's current position is on that. That maybe they just haven't gotten around to sending it yet. Or it may be that since that surcharge change doesn't go into effect, or their position is it doesn't go into effect until 2029, that it's not on their immediate to-do list. But there is a possibility that they will be coming back to the county to renegotiate the current arrangement that's in place, and that would potentially again impact the ability of residents in the unincorporated area to use some of the city's facilities at the same charge.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for the context and feedback. Commissioners, I'm happy with the appropriation wins. Let's land the plane there. Commissioner Minor, I believe you got some wins too. Federally, I saw. Congratulations on that. The work that's going on in Lake Jackson, North Monroe. Love what you're doing in the north side of Leon County. Commissioners, on the property tax. Mr. County Administrator, what is or staff, what is the total fiscal dollar impact of this proposal?
$71 million in the first 2 years.
71, and then what is that over time? Do you know?
It grows thereafter, but of course, as you saw in the language, it contemplates the legislature phasing in full implementation. It directs the legislature to phase in full implementation of property tax, elimination of of homestead property taxes.
Do we know what that will be like in 5 years?
We're doing that analysis now.
Okay. Commissioners, in 2020, the Leon County budget, I don't have it in front of me, but I recall from previous conversations was 250 million, 200 million. Does that sound about right, Mr. County Administrator?
I'd have to check that.
Okay. Is there a staff member that could clarify that number, what our fiscal year budget was in 2020?
I don't know if they'd be able to recall 2020 at this point, but Rashonda could probably come up and give you a general idea.
Okay. Here's my general thoughts about this. I wish that we had taken the position earlier on in this issue where we had a seat at the table. The governor and the legislature has been saying for a couple years that they want to eliminate property taxes. What I've learned very quickly in my time in public service is that when you have the Florida legislature and the governor both rowing in the same direction, they're gonna propose some policy. And so I'm not surprised to see where we are today. I wish that we would have taken the position, or other local governments would have taken the position to kind of row the same direction, so that way there wasn't such a drastic shift in this direction that's being proposed now. However, I will say this. Do we have that answer by 2020 yet? I can Google it. I think our budget director is gonna.
Let's just make sure we'll answer the questions in their full context.
Yeah.
I mean, some of this stuff doesn't really.
I just want to know what the budget
It
was.
was about 280 million, but one analysis that we have done recently, just our budget growth over that same period, and it's pretty much been consistent with inflationary growth for government indexes.
Okay, so thank you for that. So our proposed budget this year is what?
Rashonda, please return to the lectern.
The proposed budget that we'll present to you next week is about $420 million, and it's about a 4.8% year-over-year growth.
Okay, thank you for that. So Commissioners, I don't, again, this is just my position, and I understand that this may differ from some of our other colleagues up here, but we're facing a $71 million impact, and again, that can grow over time. And even with that deficit, it's taken us down to $350 million, which is more revenue total as a county than what we had in 2020. And so my opinion is, guys, we will get through this. Like, this is like, yeah, we will get through this. We operated our budget in 2020 with roughly, she said, $250 million. We are at a pivotal time where local government is going to change. I think that it's an important time for our board and our staff to lead the way of what that looks like. I think we need to change how we budget, how we look at revenues. Mr. County Administrator, I sent an email related, asking questions about our reserves. And the question was for that email is because we're sitting around $50 million in reserves, right? Which in the grand scheme of things of how we budget is not a whole lot of money, right? I think we need to look at positioning ourselves, if this is legally viable, of having an endowment, right? We need to look at ways to where we can grow our reserves and invest our reserves so we're being competitive with the market. The market has gone up, what, 10 to 15%? I would like to know how much on our ROI have we gotten on those reserves? What does that look like? The schools have a foundation for Leon County Schools, right? That may be a model that we need to look at as well, of having a direct support organization that can help us, that we fundraise to, and help continue to grow an endowment. We keep talking about how we're losing tens and tens of millions of dollars. But guys, that's money going back into taxpayers' hands, right? And so I think it's important that we look at this eyes wide open and look at, with money going back into taxpayers' hands, that is going to alleviate an affordability crisis when it comes to affordable housing. It's going to generate sales tax revenue, which then leads to, we need to look at, with such a big change, what are we going to do with Blueprint? We've committed ourselves to 20 years on a 1% sales tax. We've bonded out $1.2 billion. A majority of that money are for very large infrastructure projects, some of which arguably I would say we don't need. So I think it's important to look at this eyes wide open. What was going on and what we needed 10 years ago is shifting and changing. Maybe we need to use some of our sales tax dollars to provide basic infrastructure needs. I think we may need to look at that. We may need to go back to ask taxpayers if they would like us to pivot on the Blueprint infrastructure sales tax. Maybe we complete some of the big projects and we look at reevaluating some of the others. However, I'm not looking at this scenario like a doomsday scenario. I'm really not. If anything, I think that, Mr. County Administrator, I think this is an opportunity for you and your staff to really be in a legacy-making opportunity and position, because I think you have some of the best staff in the state of Florida. And I think that if anyone could navigate this and come out of this with a win, I think it's Leon County staff. I truly believe that. And so I would like to see us being in the driver's seat of how we pivot here. However, I'm just not looking at this like an ultimate doomsday scenario. If anything, we're going back to our budget that we had just a few years ago. We made it work then, and we'll make it work now. So, Commissioners, I appreciate all the sentiment and conversation related to this item. Mr. County Administrator, I appreciate your staff. Brian, appreciate your team of the Southern Group. With that being said, we'll take a vote on this item, then we're going to go into break. So who made the motion on this item? Who made the motion to accept the report? Commissioner Proctor, who seconded the motion? Second by Commissioner Maddox. All right, Commissioners, all those in favor of accepting the report, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Seeing none, with Commissioner Maddox outside the chambers, passes 6-0. Commissioners will go into break. We have a public hearing in 10 minutes.